thing one, always, throttle's not frozen, not stuck. Brakes, I got pressure. Okay, that's easy stuff. After that, your next check's for starting it in the first place of the year, and every ride for that matter. As long as it's cool, you can check your coolant. If it's liquid cooled, like you'll have a coolant tank, so I can see in the tank that I'm good on coolant. Can't do that when it's hot; you'll burn yourself. And then with a 2-stroke, you have your injector oil. Okay, so that's got to get filled up. So I'll walk around it. And then, oh my God, it's twitch. Okay, so you got to make sure your injector oil is topped up. Otherwise, you blow up the snow machine. No injector oil, not long for the snow machine. I'll have to top that one up. Yeah.
What kind of oil?
It's literally called injector oil.
Okay.
And you'll see it's got a picture of a snowmobile on it.
Maybe we got some of that.
That's what you want. You want the winter stuff. Don't get the 2-stroke mix for an outboard motor, because outboard motors after minus 10, it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't atomize. It separates from the fuel, so it has to be winter stuff. And then you've got your chain case. Okay, so you'll have to check your oil in that. There should be a dipstick for it. Like I say, mine's probably all in different locations than yours. Okay, I got oil on my dipstick. Looks pretty clean. If it wasn't, I would change it. And that's just 80-90 gear oil on all of them. And then you're looking for, cracked hoses, because if this coolant hose lets go on me, I got no machine. I'm screwed. Right?
Okay.
And then, yeah, same thing. You're making sure your spark plug wires and caps are all good and intact. Now, if I was really worried about it, I'd pull a plug, check the color of the plug, make sure it was good. Air filter on this guy could use a little clean. Nothing sophisticated about these guys. They're pretty straightforward for the air blocks. Okay, and then, and this one, so you got your fuel. You look on it, it's got a tag where it shows you. You got your fuel shut off on this guy, and then you've got like a picture of it, and then the valve is actually underneath. It's a bugger, so I never even change it. I just leave it off. But winterizing it, typically you run it dry.
Okay.
And then, so for you, I don't know if your machine has a shut off for the fuel or not. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna look for the obvious fuel line going to your carburetor and then trace it back. So this guy, I know this comes off my valve. I'm gonna chase that. And that's the fuel line going here. Basically, you're gonna look at the carburetor and anything, soft, supple, make sure that's your fuel line, and you'll chase it back, make sure there's no shut off valve for the fuel, because you'll never get it to start. or you'll get it to start, it'll burn the fuel that's in the carburetor, die, and you'll like, what's going on? Why is this not working?
Oh, wait, we drove them already last year off the off the sled, and then we drove them around in a big circle. Would it have died by then?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
If you drove it at all, it would have died quickly.
Okay.
And then, something that a lot of people overlook is your recoil rope. Nice and slow, pull it out, and you're looking at it. Especially where it rubs on the cowling and when it rubs on this guy. Okay, now obviously I can't see inside of it, but I can see up to the edge of the recoil.
Oh yeah.
And you're making sure that rope's got no big frays, no big kinks. It's not going to let go on you, because it's not really the biggest thing in the world to have to change your recoil rope. But if it's 30 below in your middle of nowhere,
seems like
it really
it is.
Sucks. What's that?
Seems like it is. You got to take that whole case off.
Yeah, you gotta, but not impossible. And then same thing when you're checking your throttle up top. So now you're looking at this. This is the oil pump down here.
All right.
Comes off the side of your engine. So you want to ensure that moves and the cable's not broken. And then mine's a twin carb, so I can see the action moving there at the carburetor, right? And both of them. You gotta make sure both sides work. You can see the rod going across on mine. Yours would probably be twin carbs as well.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Wait a minute,
Making
I
sure
don't
that all
know.
moves nice and free and returns. I say it's got to be spring return, otherwise you're in bad shape. And then really, on these guys, that's your checking it out. Actually, you should check the belt too.
So don't need to mix gas?
No, not with the injector. If it's got an injection pump, you're good.
And if it doesn't, then we'll have to mix gas.
Well, it depends if it's a 2-stroke or a 4-stroke.
2-stroke.
Next nice thing I like to check, but a lot of people don't. Here's your belt. Okay, really good if you got a partner. Mine's good because you got a partner brake for it. Easiest way to change your belt is this is your secondary and your primary clutch.
Wait a minute, do that again because I wasn't, sorry. Secondary?
Secondary clutch, primary clutch.
Okay.
Primary is driven by the engine, secondary is what drives your belt, or your
Okay.
track, sorry. So I lock my brake, or if you don't have a parking brake, get a partner to hold the brake for you. Push down on the belt and go towards the back of the snow machine. Once that spreads that belt with the clutch for you, then you can work the belt off. And you can check your belt and your clutch faces. Maybe I'll get it out. Okay, you want it nice and supple. It should bend nice without cracking. You don't want any cracks. Don't fold it over like too hard or you'll crack your belt. But you should be able to flex it. And you're looking for any cracks, missing teeth, anything like that. You'll see if a belt's bad. I can show you on the Yamaha, I'm sure that it's bad. But you'll see like flat spots where it's like the clutch is stuck.
All right.
And that smokes your belt, and when you're driving, you'll feel it, and your belt will blow if you're going at high speeds though. So the belt, this guy looks pretty good. When you're putting it back on, just be careful for your rotation. Some of them are directional. It'll have an arrow if it is. I think Yamaha's one is. This one's not. Then you go back on the primary first because you can sink that lowest down over the top. Brake's still locked. You can grab the secondary and you try to slide it apart. I'm pushing down hard on that belt to get it to go in a little bit.
I don't know that we'd be able to do that. There we go. And that's it.
And that's checking your belt. Now,
Let me just feel this. Okay.
now there's clearances and specs, and your belt normally, like after the track rotates a few times, your belt should sit proud on the secondary.
Oh, okay.
Just a little bit. It shouldn't. If it sinks way down in it all the time, there's either a problem with your secondary or your belt is worn.
All right.
And then on your primary, could have done it when it had the belt off. It probably would have been easier. You're making sure that all your weights. This one you can't really see the weights on. You make sure everything moves. So like for me, I can't really do that in here. Normally I'd put the track lift on it. I'd lift the track up, and I'd spin the belt, and I'd watch both. I'd watch the primary do its action, and watch the secondary do its action.
All right.
Your primary, when your throttle closes and the belt comes up the size of it, and the secondary does the opposite. Changes your gear ratio of your drive, right?
Okay.
And then you make sure your exhaust springs are all there. And it's like, okay, well, I'm kind of intact engine-wise.
Okay. Have an extra belt?
Well, you should always have a spare belt, yes. And then what most of us do is we usually take the old belt that we changed and put it on there, right? Mm-hmm. This one's getting pretty stiff feeling compared to the other one. It's not as nice and supple. I do have a new belt for it. But this one, and you can see it starting to do some fine cracks.
Oh, yeah. Wait a minute.
I don't know if you can get it at all.
Yep.
Right? And you only see that if you flex it a little bit. Mm-hmm. See, otherwise it looks great, right? But it feels stiff to me. I can see the cracks.
Mm-hmm. I got a good picture of it. Oh, yeah, it's way stiffer than the other one. But it would get you out of the bush maybe going slow.
Get you out of the bush. It's the joy of the spare, right? Mm-hmm. But also, everybody keeps them in there forever. Rotate it.
Oh, okay.
That is the tightest bracket on that guy. There. That's that part.
Okay.
After that, so mine's loose. And the steering rack has got to play in it, but it's an old snow machine too, right? More what I'm worried about are your heim joints on the outside or your links. So this one's got a little bit of slop in it, but it's not like gonna fall off. It's not wore out.
Okay.
Okay. And then this one's got trailing arms, this style. So your trailing arms, you gotta make sure your bushings are intact, the slide bushing, your sway bar is attached. All your heim joints are there connected. Doesn't look like they're gonna fall out, fall off. Same thing, your bolt for your ski is there and intact. The nuts on the back side of it.
Oh, okay.
It moves. It's got to do all those things, right? Same thing on the other side. Checking both. All right, make sure your nuts on top for your spindle. Joint is there. And the bushing's intact. The shock is good. It doesn't look like it's going to fall off or break off. All the bolts are there. Everything's good there. Everything pivots. Every ski has a rubber bushing here. That's got to move. If it doesn't, you're gonna have one rude ride. Then
the only thing I used to do was check the track was centered.
Well, you want to check that too. No, that's great. And the other thing you can do easy if you got a stand, and a flashlight would help me. So when I was washing everything down, when I'm washing it down, I'm looking for like obvious this bolt is backed out or missing, right? That kind of, or I can see it's like been chewing away at the side here, right? So this bolt here is literally what holds the front of your suspension and track in. The bolt at the back is the same for the back. That's what holds all that arm and rod in.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, so if these bolts are missing or loose, you can get yourself into trouble quick. Okay, so make sure they're there. I mean, they shouldn't back out by finger either. Not a bad idea to take a wrench to them and check them. Then you're checking all your idlers, making sure the rubber's all intact all the way around. Give it a wiggle, make sure your bearing's good on all of them. You're checking them all, right? And this one's got one in the middle. And I always service the suspension. I always grease it before I put it away. That way nothing gets rusty over the summer.
Where?
So all of your pivot points should have a grease nipple.
Oh, okay.
See, like you pivot the rod that goes across between your two rails. There should be one at the top as well. And then you're looking, while you're in here, you got each of your plastic. Most of them are plastic. That's what sets your spring. This is your load spring, right? For your suspension. And they've got different settings on the blocks. So you want to make sure your blocks are there and they're intact. And same thing, no bolts are missing or anything like that in any of your linkages. And that just takes time to find it. Then while you're down here, you're looking at your slides. These ones are a little tougher to see what the wear is because there's no indicator on them. But you're looking at them, making sure they're intact. Same thing, no big chunks missing out of the slide. On front, and you can see the far side, right? Look at what you can. And then same thing, your tension bolt is there and it's not loose, nothing like that. You got your limiting strap in the front. That's got to be there, and it can't be busted off or anything like that, right? See it? The strap there that I'm touching on my finger?
Yeah.
That's your limiter strap. You can change how your snow machine rides a lot with that by changing different settings. You shouldn't need to on that one, but if it ever breaks, you'll know.
What is this thing?
So that's actually my ice scratcher. So if I'm on hard pack, I've got this down and it just flings snow up onto the snow machine track for me. I just got it tucked up all the way. And the same thing, you got
Probably don't have
grease
that.
nipples there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
What kind of grease do you use?
any lithium-based grease, like any B2 or anything like that, will be fine. And on the front of your rails, you've got your protective caps, and they're like a guide. That's what keeps your track centered on the rail, so they can't be broken off or missing. Otherwise, it'll grab the track, and you're in bad shape. Up underneath in the front here, those are your drive pulleys. Make sure that you're not missing any teeth. They're called extroverts actually, but that's what drives your belt.
Okay.
And you can see from here, from my vantage point, I can see the bearing on the far side. I'm making sure that that's like this, that the lip seal is still on it. It doesn't look like it's out of center or anything like that. It's called your jack shaft. If that jack shaft bearing is gone, you'll know it right away. It'll make one hell of a racket.
Okay.
Like it's something wrong. That shaft will move a lot. Then you're doing the same thing from the other side. You're looking at all the stuff that you couldn't see from the side before, right? Good. Idlers look like they're good. The rubber's in good shape. Nothing's broke off, loose. I can see the edge of the chain case in my jack shaft from the other side. Same thing. That bearing looks good, like just visually, right? I think you can do is if you can reach it, you can grab it, you can give it a haul, and if it's clunking around, well, you got a bearing issue, right? That's not good. Yeah.
We don't like bearings.
Bearings are amazing. They change our lives. Then another thing I like to do too is if I had it spun around, I would just hoist it up. Lift it up, rotate the whole track. You're looking for missing lugs. A missing lug isn't a big deal every here and there. If you tore one off, not the end of the world. But if you got tears in your track or anything like that, or you're missing clips, you're going to be in a bad way.
Can you just spin that by hand, or you use it with throttle?
Yeah, well, if
Get
you're
two
stripping
people.
out, you can spin it by hand.
Oh.
You can use your secondary clutch and spin it, right?
Okay.
And that's kind of your base ground.
Alrighty.
We checked it out.